Testing.
Testing.
Nice.
Testing. Testing.
Welcome on this wonderfully wet morning to the Community Church of Chapel Hill, Unitarian Universalist. My name is Linda Thompson, and I'm a member of the Worship Associates Ministry here at the church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived at this beloved place, you are welcome here. Especially want to welcome any guests or newcomers to our church and call attention to the welcome guests and newcomers note for you on the back of the order of service. We are pleased to greet those of you who are joining us online this morning. The words to the hymns and other parts of the service can be found on your screen. Here are a few things to keep in mind. We're masking inside the church on Sunday mornings. After the service, we invite you to gather in two different areas, weather permitting. I think we're okay. The area behind the Jones Building is a space where masking is mandatory. The cast courtyard, right outside the sanctuary, is a mask optional space for fellowship where coffee and tea will be served. Join us there after the service. The Sunday small group social will be hosted by Rachel Rose at 12:15 today. You can find the link in your weekly announcements email. Finally, if you've not done so already, this would be a great time to silence your cell phone so that we may maintain a worshipful experience. And now I'd like to invite Rachel Rose to come up and tell us about this morning's Within These Walls. Here she comes.
Sorry about that. I just did the cardio portion of the Sacred Body service. I was busy fulfilling my role as a welcoming director out there in the Commons, and we're happy to have everybody here today. And I hope that many, if not all of you, will join us for one of my favorite events of the church year, the All-Church Picnic. All are welcome to join us for food, fun, and fellowship at the annual All-Church Picnic. It'll take place this year at September 10th, the first Saturday after Labor Day, from 5 to 8 p.m. at New Hope Camp and Conference Center. It's gorgeous. Pardon me. Whew. It's hard to do cardio with your mask on. The annual All-Church Picnic is a simple, joyful time for us to come together in a beautiful setting, share a meal, and watch or participate in the old-fashioned fun of big group games like sack races, tug-of-war, and the three-legged race. Making giant bubbles is another part of our tradition and is popular with folks of all ages. There will also be a bonfire, and you're invited to bring your own s'mores-making supplies. While a traditional potluck is our usual practice, this year we will also implement some extra precautions. If you choose to bring food to share and participate in the potluck, folks wearing masks and gloves will serve the food, and you can also opt to bring food for just yourself and or your family. As with much of church life, volunteers are the essential ingredients of our annual picnic's success. There are many ways to help, and most roles require 30 minutes or fewer of your time. Please put our All-Church Picnic on your calendar for September 10th and plan to join us for this special time of food, fun, and fellowship. You can find more information, including the form to RSVP and sign up to volunteer, on the homepage of our church website. And I truly hope that you all will join us. It's a great time to relax and be really a part of this community. And I really cherish the memories that I have made there over the years. And I see some new and familiar faces, which I hope to see September 10th.
Okay, now we're going to sing. Please stand in body or spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, number 1024 in the teal hymnal. When the Spirit says do.
When the Spirit says spirits are sing. You got to sing when the spirits are sing. You got to sing when the spirits are sing. You got to sing when the spirits are sing. Spirit says 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 sing. You got to dance when the spirit says dance. You got to dance when the spirit says dance. You got to dance, says dance. You got to dance.
And then just go back to the spirit says
Spirit says dance. Spirit says dance. Spirit says dance. Spirit says dance. You got to laugh when the spirit says laugh. You got to laugh when the spirit says laugh. The spirit says laugh. You got to laugh. Oh Lord, you got to laugh when the spirit says laugh. Okay, that's laugh. Spirit says laugh. Spirit says laugh. Spirit says laugh. Spirit says laugh.
back to do.
You got to do when the spirit says do. You got to do when the spirit says do. You got to spirit says do. You got to do, oh Lord. You got to do when the spirit says do. 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 It says do.
You did a great job. You knew that.
That was fun. The call to worship. This morning's service is about the sacred body. It asks, what if we considered our bodies as a spiritual source? What if we saw connection with our body as connection with the divine? In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we usually worship with a lot of words. Words we speak, words we sing, words we hear. This morning we'll worship as well with movement. Movement we'll watch, and movement we'll participate in. Don't get scared. All bodies are welcome here today. All bodies are good. All bodies are beautiful. All bodies are sacred. Martha Graham, the grande dame of modern dance, said, quote, "The body is a sacred garment. It's your first and last garment. It's what you enter life in and depart life with. And it should be treated with honor," end quote. Come in that spirit. Let us worship together. As Thom lights our chalice this morning, if you wish to, please join me in reading these words by Dag Hammarskjöld. You'll find the words in the order of service. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back.
Thank you so much, Carol. And one of the things that I omitted in the preparation for this service was to list resumes for our participants. And Carol has is not only a member of our church, who we're blessed to have in our congregation, but has a long history in dance and choreography, including, I believe it was danced with Baryshnikov for some years. Is that correct, Carol? Yes, great. And Carol, if I had done the service better, I would have printed everybody's resumes in it. So hear about that. Each week in our service, we hold a time for the sharing of the joys and the sorrows that we bring with us into our church community. It's at this time that if you've come with either a significant personal joy or a significant personal sorrow to share, you're invited to come forward down the sides of the ramps and place a stone in the water, say your name, and in a sentence or two, briefly share your joy or your sorrow. Let us enter into this time of tenderness and trust.
Hi, I'm Leanne King. I think I've shared with some of you that my father passed away this past January. A few weeks ago, his younger brother, after 40 plus good years of sobriety, found out that he's got liver cancer that's pretty far along the way. We're not really sure how much longer he's got left, but if you could think about him and our family, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Chris Immershine, and a college friend and fellow Doctor Who geek, Angela Phillips Wade, passed away on Friday, one day after making it through her 54th birthday and her oldest child's 19th birthday.
My name is Carol Parker, and I have two joys. One is a celebration of my sister, my big sister, and my sweet, sweet son. My sister was about 10 days ago, and my son's birthday is on Friday. Also, I just wanted to say that when I was about 10, I guess, 8 or 9, 10, my parents took me to see the Bolshoi Ballet at Lincoln Center in New York. And I saw the prima ballerina Maya Plitzskaya do The Dying Swan. And I had been taking, dance lessons, tap and jazz and everything like that. And when I saw her do The Dying Swan, I just knew that I wanted to be a dancer. So I'm joyful for that experience.
My name is Véronique Macheridon, and I recently lost my dad to pneumonia. He was going to be 96. I want to celebrate his life and his spirit.
I'm Melisande Timblin, and that stone is for my father, who just passed on Friday.
My name is Susan Spalt, and I have a sorrow. You all might remember Donna K. Smith. She's the other author of Finding Hope, and she gave a sermon here for Mental Illness Awareness Week a couple of years ago. Her husband, Tim, is very close to death this weekend from stomach cancer, and I ask you to hold Donna and her family in your hearts. Thank you.
And I'm Alan Spalt. our Carborough neighbor, Frances Shetley, who was 95, we stopped at a small ceremony for her on our way to the service for Charlie yesterday. She was awarded by the governor the Order of the Longleaf Pine, which is the highest civilian order that the governor has available, and it's handed out very rarely. But Frances has been a service to Carborough all her life, and you can ride on the Frances Shetley bike path if you want.
A final stone is placed for all the joys and the sorrows that we hold in our hearts that were not spoken. I invite you to join with me in a moment of prayer and recognition. We remember those in our community who have suffered losses, the loss of parents, the loss of friends, the loss of neighbors and community members. We take a moment to reach out through that small space that is ever between us, to connect in the spirit of compassion, care, and support. With love and with tenderness, we hold all the prayers of our community. Amen. Normally, we would hold a time of meditation where we all sort of sit and sing, but we're going to do something different today. We're going to kind of enter into this service about the body. And if you're willing, I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit. And we're going to do some movements, and I think they're movements that everybody can do. You may not make them big, you can make them as small as need be. And so what I'd like you to do, we're going to do it 3 times through, and the first time you're just going to follow me in the movement. The second time, we're going to follow me with the movement, and I'm going to add some words. And then the third time through, we'll add the words, and try singing while we do it, perhaps. So we're going to start with this. Put, if you can, the back of your hands together and reach up just a little bit. And now bring your hand to your mouth and move out like you're singing. And come back to your heart. Invite you to stir like you're stirring some soup. Then rock a baby. Now we're going to do this move that's like the beginning of the Macarena. And just sway a little bit. Now, bring your hands across and just twinkle your fingers. And now come back and do swoops. Now do that again with the hands behind each other and raise up. All right, and that's the movement. Now we're going to add some words to it. And so I'm just going to say the words and you'll see what we're doing, and then we'll do it with singing. So, Spirit, do us like this. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. No, and then we did it wrong. So we're going to do blow in the wind. Yeah, there we go. Rise in the sea. There we go. And now the Macarena. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. We're going to reach down low. Roots hold me close. Wings set me free. And then back to the beginning. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me. We'll do that one more time since I left out a little bit doing this by memory. All right. Ready? Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close and wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Should we sing it? We are about to do something that I have been fantasizing about doing in church for 7 years. A weightlifting demonstration during a worship service. This is a text. This is a spiritual text. And I'd like to invite forward this morning our special guest, my friend, Dr. Mitchell Osborne. Mitchell, come on up. I'll just give a little brief bio of Mitchell. Mitchell was, when I first came to Chapel Hill, he was one of my very first CrossFit coaches 8 years ago. He is a 2-time CrossFit Games athlete, and he's also a chiropractor who operates Symmetry Spine and Sport here in Chapel Hill, which offers a variety of chiropractic and physical therapy services. And I've asked Mitchell to come and demonstrate 2 Olympic lifts, and then talk with me a little bit, have a little bit of an unplanned conversation with me about spirit and body and mind. So the first lift that Mitchell's going to, are you good to go? All right, do a little. Good. So we're going to do 2 Olympic lifts. The first one is the snatch, and what makes it the snatch is a wide grip, and it's a pull off the ground, and you pull the bar all the way overhead with one motion. That bar's got 135 pounds on it. So, do you want to demonstrate here?
Super exciting. And now we're going to do the clean and jerk, which is, do you want to put more weight on, or do you want to stick with that? We put more weight on. All right. So that's an extra 50 pounds, so it's now 185. And the clean and jerk is, it's sort of the same idea, but with two movements instead of one. So the first is a move that pulls up to the shoulder, and then there's a pause, and the second part is a push overhead. So come on over and talk. You can take off the mask if you want while you're up here. So I just described the snatch and the clean and jerk a little bit. And I want to ask you sort of what goes, so we can talk about what goes on physically when we lift, but what is, when you lift, what's your connection, and you're going to come on over here to talk into the mic, what's the connection sort of mentally and even spiritually? What sort of things happen when you lift?
Oh, a whole bunch of everything and nothing all at once. Often I'm thinking about how hungry I am. Because it incites hunger. But no, you're thinking about every little technique thing that you've ever been taught, like keep this in this position, do this in this way, explode at this moment, but you can only do that for so long. If you focus on it too much, then everything just falls apart. And that goes not up, but right back to the floor. So, yeah.
Cool. So Mitchell, as a doctor, as a chiropractor, people come to you with physical movements that they want to change or do differently. And I've had this experience that sometimes when you change a physical movement, things happen that are your mental changes happen, and spiritual changes happen when our movement changes. And can you talk a little bit about that and maybe why that is, or your theory about why that is?
Yeah, actually, coincidentally, I taught a lecture on this last Tuesday. So without going into too much of the science of it, so our brain likes to piggyback information onto other information. And emotions, feelings, fears, all of those are bits of information. Movement is also information. And so just like when you smell an old smell and it brings back memories, the same sort of thing can happen with certain motions. So if you have anxiety or fear or anything like that was occurring at the same time that a particular motion was, then those two things kind of get lumped together. One of my other favorite examples is the telephone number. Like we remember phone numbers in this cadence of bop, 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 bop. So if I say 555, 55, 55, that's a phone number, right? I'm not going to tell you that in 555, 555. No one would ever remember it. And so the same sort of thing happens, like our brain likes to chunk this information together. And so when you have like painful experiences or even joyful ones, like when you start to do the motion that is associated with it, then those things just come flooding back in. And when you fix motion that is associated with the painful ones, then that just, the anxiety, the fear, all of that just kind of melts away.
And so I want to ask one more question. And I gave Mitchell all the questions in advance, although he didn't give me his answers, so I'm listening to learn. No, none of this is a surprise, except for the weightlifting. So I want to ask, what role does fitness and strength play in your life outside of the gym? Can you talk about transformation that you've experienced as a result of doing lifting?
Sure. So, I mean, the biggest thing is not being able to lift that, because I don't do that in my day-to-day life. I walk around and I pick up frying pans and open doors and get up off the sofa. And the biggest noticeable change is all of that stuff gets way easier. You know, pulling a frying pan out of the low cupboard is super simple. I'm just going to replace that right there. So as the stronger you are, it's not lifting that becomes, you know, noticeable. It's all those other little things. And for me especially, speaking of fears and anxieties and things like that, I lost my dog when I was quite young. She drowned in our lake, and I saw her fall in, and I rushed to go and get her, and reached into the water and grabbed her, but I wasn't strong enough to pull her out. And it took me a long time to stop blaming myself for that. But when I finally did, I kind of made the resolution to always be strong enough to help other people or just those around me, no matter the situation. And, you know, strength and bigger muscles and all that, those are just a happy coincidence or a byproduct of the, like, confidence and, like, spiritual, emotional, and mental clarity that comes with being able to answer the question, can you help, with yes.
Friends, I want you to join with me in thanking Mitchell for coming and talking with us this morning. And so I don't think I can lift that, so I want to ask Mitchell to do that. And now we're going to do the audience participation part of the service. Would anybody would like to? No, just thank you so much, Mitchell. Thank you. We're going to do our offertory now. So as the baskets are passed, I invite you to give generously in support of this congregation and its ministries. And we're going to have more music and more dance. So what I'm going to do this morning, briefly in my remarks, and now's the talking part of the service. And thank you so much. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Mitchell. Thank you, Dorothy and Glenn, for putting together such an amazing liturgy today. I want to talk a little bit about my own kind of fitness or movement journey. And then I want to talk a little bit about some possible things that it might mean and some possible things that I've learned. So when I became the minister of this church in 2014, you may not know it, but I was actually not doing well. 11 years earlier, at the age of 25, I had become the minister of a Unitarian Universalist church in the suburbs of Kansas City, and for the next 11 years in that settlement, I was pretty much a workaholic. And when I wasn't working, I mostly occupied myself with activities that were completely and entirely sedentary. I was uncomfortable in my own body, and my body was uncomfortable. I felt physically weak. I felt bad a lot of the time. I had developed a bad back and a sore neck, which, to be in your mid-30s, early 30s, and have that is not the greatest thing. I got tired easily, and I like to say that I went a whole decade without breaking a sweat, except that I had started to break a sweat from carrying my groceries in from the car or climbing up a single flight of stairs. But more than anything else, I just didn't think about my body. It was like I was living upstairs in my head, and my body was like my downstairs neighbor that I didn't know anything about and really didn't want to know because it seemed kind of weird from where I was. And when I arrived here in Chapel Hill in July of 2014, I had this instinctual desire to change this. So later that month, my first month in town, my family and I were beating the heat on the hottest day of the summer, those July North Carolina days, by walking through the inside of University Mall, where there's lots of air conditioning. And in one corner of that mall, I saw there was a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Chapel Hill. I walked in and met not Mitchell, but the guy named Jason, who was the owner. And Jason was finishing up a set of back squats, taking a weight on the back and squatting down and then standing back up with about 450 pounds on the bar. I was very intimidated by Jason. Jason then put the bar on the rack, turned towards me, who had walked in the door of his gym, and said, "Are you interested in working out?" And my honest response was, "I don't know." And he said, "You could come this afternoon and find out." And I said, "Maybe tomorrow." And the next day, I went. And then I went back, and I actually stuck with going back. It was the first time in my life that I've ever stuck with anything related to my body, and more than 8 years later, I'm still doing it. Mitchell was a coach there at the time, one of my first coaches. Natalie, right beside Mitchell, was on her way to becoming a coach, and you should feel free during coffee hour afterwards to ask them to tell you all the embarrassing stories about how lost I was at the gym. You can tell those stories too if you want. And it changed me. I got stronger and had more energy and felt better and had less pain. All those things were wonderful, but I also changed in another way as well. I began to get to know my downstairs neighbor, and I discovered that I actually liked him and that he liked me. I began to feel embodied. And what that exactly means is a little bit difficult to language, and I'm going to try to do that. To be honest, as excited and passionate as I am about this topic, I also approach it today with a little bit of trepidation and struggle with how exactly the best way to approach it. I'm speaking to a community this morning that is diverse in many ways, including in terms of our bodies and our bodily abilities. Some of us face diseases that cause physical changes. Some of us have reached a stage in life where the goal is to retain what mobility we may have. The truth of the matter is our bodies are both amazing and resilient and fragile and temporary. I might have a car accident this afternoon, or a stroke this evening, or they might discover a brain tumor tomorrow. There are no guarantees. Even marathon runners have heart attacks. But here is the other truth, is that even though our bodies are impermanent, there are things that we can do to connect with our bodies. I sometimes like to joke that my fitness goals are not to become fit like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Rather, I'd really like to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Right? In terms of some other changes that happened during my fitness journey, I want to mention just a couple. First is that CrossFit has a really bad reputation for snobbery and for having an attitude like it's the best fitness program in the world and nothing else is as good, which is true, but no, just kidding. But I kind of wondered as I got into it whether I would become like snobbish, and actually the opposite happened. Is that commitment to that particular discipline and regimen, and more than that, that commitment to showing up, made me actually more appreciative and respectful and like positive about anybody's commitment. Whether that's running or swimming or walking or biking or pickleball or gentle yoga or doing the rehab exercises that the physical therapist gives you. The more I got into my particular gym, the more I thought, how cool is it? Any movement is inherently cool, and that there is no hierarchy. I really do believe that there is no hierarchy between, contra dancing and triathlons. The other change was that I wondered if lifting, if going to the gym and working out would make me judgmental about other people's bodies. And actually the opposite happened. So the first thing is that I was struck when I first went to the gym, I'll say this, it's a little bit embarrassing, is that I was struck, like, as a minister in a church, we all, we're always wear pants and shoes and socks and a coat, and I hung out with mostly church people, and we were mostly like covered people, and there in the gym I walked in and there's like, muscles are showing, and people have on, people take their shirts off when they lift, and there was like all of this like body around me, and I think six-pack abs and bulging biceps are really cool, even though I don't have them. But one of the things that was really interesting to me is that even at the gym that I was at, there's a whole diversity of body types and abilities, and a real camaraderie that's built up, and a support for everybody wherever they're at with things. And then the other thing that I noticed is that in the workouts that we do, that there are some people who are advantageous and in one exercise and disadvantageous in another. I think of this really, really tall guy who's about 6'6", who is amazing on the rower. Like, he just cranks the rower and it just flies. And but in terms of like doing a bar overhead in a snatch, that's a long way up to get that bar overhead. And then there is another person who is, very, very squat, who can put, amazing amounts of weight overhead because it's not going that far. But on the rower, it's like the calories are moving slowly. And there became this sort of sense that, all bodies across the spectrum are neat and cool and interesting. So I wonder what a Unitarian Universalist theology of the body would look like. On one hand, there may not be a lot of stuff in our tradition. If you read our entire hymnal from start to finish, there's hardly an acknowledgement that we have bodies. That our incarnation in this moment is as physical beings. If you read our 6 sources, you'll see that we draw from an amazing wealth of spiritual sources, none of which actually have to do with our own physical bodies. For a long time, this is kind of a joke, for a long time it was very popular to create a list of famous Unitarian Universalists. After all, we're a small faith, and it gives us a great ego boost to know that there were famous and influential people who were at one time Unitarians. And so the list of famous Unitarians always includes presidents and writers and scientists and inventors and lots of social reformers. And sometimes, the grandparents of presidents, because we'll take that as well. But never an athlete. And that's how I know there's never been a famous UU athlete, because God knows if there had been, we would have claimed them and bragged about it. And so on one tradition, it seems that we could think of ourselves, and maybe are we a faith that's alienated from our body? Is our church, from the neck up? But on the other hand, I think about things that we do, like the Our Whole Lives program, the Our Whole Lives human sexuality classes, which do just a remarkable job educating our young people about their bodies from a human sexuality perspective. And OWL, if you've taken it, or if your youth have taken it, it does a remarkable job incorporating actually the full diversity of human beings into their teaching materials, using images of human sexuality that is inclusive of different genders, different ages, different body types, and different levels of physical ability and disability. And so I'll be snobby here and say that we actually do a better job of teaching about this aspect of our bodies than any other faith that I can think of. So here, in closing minute or two, are a few thoughts I have about the body as sacred. The first thing is that we're all struggling, or we still struggle as a society, with a Western philosophical and theological thought and all its problematic history. And there is this legacy based on dualism that we live with that's posited a division between the soul and the body, between mind and matter, between the spiritual and the physical. In this dualism, soul and spirit were deemed good, and being good often meant transcending the physical realm. And in this tradition we've inherited, the spirit was often coded as male, and the body was coded as female. God is male and good, the body is female and sinful. And that's kind of the theological legacy that we've inherited in the West. And that belief has caused a lot of suffering and a lot of dysfunction. And that's actually one of the reasons I long dreamed about bringing weightlifting into church, is to sort of challenge that idea that doesn't belong here, right? That those things don't belong in this space. That's not a spiritual topic. Well, maybe it is. So here's my thought. We all have bodies. The Universalist in me affirms the need to claim that every body is good, and every body is a blessing, and every body is sacred. Full stop, no exceptions. And that religion or spirit is often about this connection, whether that's a connection with God, whether that's a connection with nature, whether that's a connection with each other, whether that's a connection with our community. We live religiously by making, and spiritually by making these connections. And that connection can also be with ourself and with our body. And that, as said, that there's things that come from that allow us to learn and grow and see the world a little differently. Amen. Blessed be. And we've got one final treat for us this morning before we close, which is we're not going to sing a closing hymn, but I've invited Dorothy Wright, our cellist, to actually do some Tai Chi with us. So, Dorothy?
And please, if able or willing, this is brief, so it won't be long. So, come, sir. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I've been doing Tai Chi for about 14, 15 years, and I find it very centering and calming and really quite wonderful. It really helps feel like you're flowing. The odd thing about Tai Chi is that it's all from the waist down, and everything that's pretty and graceful is replaceable with another self-defense movement, which it actually is. Okay, so let's start with our feet in sort of a V shape. And you want to sink down onto your right leg, bring the left heel up. We're going to step to the left, but empty. That means no weight on the left foot until we make sure that it's safe, and then we ease over all the way to the left. We face to the right and pull our right toes in. So that accomplishes getting our feet from a V shape into a nice parallel. And then we raise the back of the hands up and then push them forward and go yang there if you want. A little bit of tension, come back to relaxation, and gently come down. These are all self-defense moves. If anyone wants to know what they are, see me afterwards. You split your hands apart, the right goes out and comes in and makes a circle, and then you come down. That was the introduction salute. And then we're going to push towards your right with the back of your right hand up on someone's shoulder and the left on a hip. And then we're going to reach out with the right foot, stepping empty, and then put weight on it when you know it's safe. Right hand goes forward, left hand goes forward. Then we come back. Then we come forward again and bring, I'm going to just move so I can still talk with this thing. Bring the left foot into the right, and the left foot comes straight forward. Empty again, we do that a lot. And then you give a little bit of energy boost right here in case someone grabbed you from behind. Then you come forward, and then you do a strike here on the left. That's grass, the first part of grass sparrow's tail. That's called ward off left. Okay? And now you've all done some Tai Chi, which I think is wonderful. I could talk for hours about it. Thank you very much.
Well, let's thank everyone who participated in this service. Including you. I invite you to join me in reading the words for extinguishing the chalice. You'll find the words in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please stand, remain standing, as we sing our closing song, Shalom. If you wish to join hands with others, hold your hands to the side. If not, cross your hands over your heart. Shalom, my friend, shalom. you.